Today on Locked On Rockies, will he? Won't he? The anticipation is growing. A monumental day in Colorado Rockies history could happen today. Not just a monumental day for Rockies fans, but for a certain first baseman we all know and love.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 24th day of January in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You are in the right spot, because that's what we do around here, is talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every single day here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. We stream live on YouTube, Locked On Rockies there on YouTube. You can find us free and streaming also on your favorite streaming service. We dive into the live chat and answer your questions, take your comments live. We see you, Blasting Bagel and Mateo, there in the live chat right now. Folks, on the Locked On Rockies podcast today, there's really only one thing to talk about. In a matter of hours, I think actually maybe close to when we wrap up, maybe. I wanted to go a little later and see if we can go and see if Todd Helton was going to make it, but you know how these things go. They're going to say it's going to start at this time, and then it's going to take forever, and then I just didn't want to be kind of sitting around here. I figured we could we'll hype up together. We'll get ready. We'll dive in, and before the award show, we can all talk Todd together. This is an old shirtsy I got from a long time ago. The 17 there, it's covered in bleach. It's an old shirt. I'm rocking the Todd today. And this is big. It's massive. Not only are we going to potentially see two Rockies in the Hall of Fame, we're going to see a much more expedited process for Rockies players. We are going to see Rockies greatness enshrined as it should be. There are legendary players that have played for the Colorado Rockies in its short history. And it is no longer acceptable to deny the greatness of Rockies baseball when there are examples of it. There are a lot of examples of the contrary, but these are not them. Any team would take Larry Walker. Any team would take Todd Helton. Todd Helton would have thrived in any environment, and he would have had even better numbers if not hampered by injury. His loyalty to an expansion team that was looking for its consistent face of the franchise, someone that could have forced his way out easily, could have easily played his hand harder to be traded to the Boston Red Sox, could have done more to move on from this team, instead provided 17 years of Hall of Fame quality baseball for a team that needed it. Man, the Rockies suck. They've only won, it's another 60-win season. But you know what? Todd Helton's, I'm going to go down to Coors Field, and I'm going to see Todd Helton hit 2 doubles today, because the guy showed up to the yard ready to play, and he gave you what you wanted. Consistency, performance, and leadership. Yeah, that's sure. Towards the end, the things that there are things that should be recognized for Todd Helton off the field, but I mean, there are also mistakes and bad mistakes, and people make from them and learn from them. And I think that Todd is an example of that. And I think he wants to, now using his time since to give back to baseball, to get back to baseball. Todd Helton made baseball in Colorado better. Todd Helton was an example for baseball players in Colorado. And it's at a time you had the Blake Street Bombers, of course, you had all this energy and you had these big offensive threats, But then you had some real low, doldrum, boring, bad Rockies teams throughout the 2000s and early 2010s. But you want to know who stayed with it through them all was Todd Helton. And not only did he stick with it, he was great. I think here's one of my hot takes in the world. Defense at first base is underrated. Great defensive play at first base makes your infield better. Todd Helton made Troy Tulowitzki better. Todd Helton made his outfielders better because he could position himself. Todd Helton could lead and commandeer, and Todd Helton didn't let balls pass him. The offense is one thing, but I don't think it's fair to great first basemen to negate what they do on defense. Todd Helton has a hidden ball trick pulled off successfully late in his career too. That stuff matters. Todd Helton being recognized for his greatness on the field matters because he was great. It wasn't Coors Field. It wasn't the steroid era. Todd Helton has to deal with. Todd Helton gets less respect as someone who avoided PED scandals than some of these other players. And I've told you my stance on PEDs. PEDs, yes, there is an argument to be made. Of course, it's cheating, it's enhancement, sure, but it also doesn't make you all that. If you're just doing steroids, you still have to be really, really good at baseball. You still have to be really, really good at baseball to do what Barry Bonds did. But you also could just be really, really good at baseball, compete against the people that were taking unnecessary advantages. So everyone's like, Todd Helton's got an unnecessary advantage at Coors Field. Well, he's going up against people that are juicing. Well, what's more unfair in your critical baseball eye? I want to get this tweet here. And again, let me make, I told you how I feel about this, but let me see if I can find it real quick. I'll do a search for it if I have to. Yeah, here we go. And this is from Spilly, Ryan Spielborgs. So here's the deal. Here's what he said. And I am really nervous. This is from @SpillyGoat19, Ryan Spielborgs. I'm really nervous about Hall of Fame today. I want to see some guys get in, but my blood is boiling. Using the Not Mr. Tibbs tracker, shout outs, by the way, to the Hall of Fame tracker crew. All of them do amazing work every Hall of Fame season and make it simple, easy to understand and follow. There's no, we wouldn't care as much about Baseball Hall of Fame if it wasn't for what those people do. Anyway, back to Spilly's tweets. I just counted 15 voters that did not vote for Helton, but voted for A-Rod and Manny, two known PED users who were found guilty multiple times each. WTF, clown. Even worse, I counted 6 voters who voted only for Rod and Manny. Tonight is going to come down to less than 5 votes to get into the Hall for Rolen and Helton. What an embarrassment if they fall short. Some writers are saying you should have taken PEDs. Rarg! That's the frustration. What is the line? Truly, deep down, what makes Alex Rodriguez and Manny Ramirez worth your... And you have multiple votes. You don't have to just vote for those 2 players. There's a whole ballot. If you have a vote and you don't use 5 of them, it makes my blood boil. That's unfair. It's you're trying to be too gatekeepy, and you're doing things like saying Todd Helton played at Coors Field, don't care. And I should know more about these things, but I'm talking more on Todd Helton again. What is your line? Why are you what makes those 2 players more special, and why are their scandals of PEDs, which again, I don't care as much about. I think PED users have a place in the Hall of Fame. I think Barry Bonds should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. He still was incredible, albeit with all that stuff. But why are PEDs more acceptable in your high almighty vote structure, your mindset, than Coors freaking Field? Mind you that Todd Helton also played post-humidor baseball and also was better on the had great road numbers. Wasn't better on the road. Let me catch myself there. the hypocrisy around a lot of baseball stuff. But for Rockies fans, and we've talked about this before, about dealing with this crappy Coors Field narrative. Yes, I get it. But boy, oh boy, we're going to celebrate big old Aaron Judge. 62 home runs doesn't even match the real record, and they're hit at Yankee Stadium where you can freaking hit a little tater tot and go out. End the narrative. And this is what Todd Helton, not only getting in the Hall of Fame, but getting into the Hall of Fame way earlier than expected, having this huge wave at the end. And again, it's all great news for the Rockies because the narrative is dying. Because you can't say that these Rockies players aren't amazing. And your arguments against Todd Helton, the only ones that I sit there, and maybe we'll dive more into this, there's really only one argument that I buy about Todd Helton against his candidacy for the Hall of Fame. And it's one that you can kind of lean into. In other words, I didn't even want to bring up stats in that first segment, folks. The sheer level of importance of Todd Helton and his significance to us Rockies fans speaks volumes, and it should speak volumes to his candidacy and his significance for the Hall of Fame. But we'll dive into the one thing I think that is actually a strong argument against Todd Helton for the Hall of Fame, and we'll dive into those numbers here in segment number 2. But before we do that, folks, it's an exciting time here. I didn't get to this off the top, but I should have, because the title sponsor of this podcast is FanDuel. FanDuel is our new partner here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Folks, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. The NFL playoffs are here, and we are really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they are the number one sportsbook in America. It's FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers, you can join today and get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/locked on. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to the point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet. And folks, if you're going to ask me, ride the Bengals. You know what? Don't go too crazy, but I believe in Joe Burrow, and I believe in the Bengals pulling off the upset. So why not go check out what you can do at FanDuel.com. You will get $150 in free bets, win or lose, when you sign up today and place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/locked on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Folks, we are talking Todd Helton. We are talking Hall of Fame. We are talking significance today. And I teased before the break, what is the one thing that I think is an actual legit argument against Todd Helton? And I'll dive into that in a second, because I do want to dive into the live chat. It's what we like to do. Keep teasing it, Extra fired up today. Got to take a drink of water. Sometimes I can go through the whole show without some water, but yeah, sometimes I feel extra ranty lately in some of my stuff. So sometimes that dries out the throat a little bit. At Rock's Hot Take says he's great and will be vindicated for the MVP snub. That's true. Should have won the MVP. Also should have won Rookie of the Year. Eric Harper says Todd is going to be celebrated big time tonight. That's an important thing to remember. Even if he falls short, that's a good sign for next year's voting process. But I don't want to wait. I want it to happen now. And I think it should happen now. And again, the people, if it is going to come down to a couple of votes tonight, and it is going to be a shame if Todd Helton misses out on a handful of votes when there's a couple of blank ballots out there, and there's a couple of Manny Ramirez and A-Rod only ballots out there, and all that type of stuff. And again, great players. I'm not trying to take away from the other players on the ballot. I am trying to defend Todd Helton here. Joel, ooh, a little cough there. Joel DeGray says, if Todd doesn't get in, I'm starting a riot. Maybe don't start a riot. There's time. Okay, maybe not a riot, but I'll flip some Post-it notes off of my desk or something. That's a better start. And then we'll all commiserate together here if it doesn't happen. But we'll keep the positive mental vibes flowing here, at least for a little bit, because we do got to get a little teeny bit negative. Mateo says, a 3-time Gold Glove winner is going where he belongs to. And I'm flabbergasted when I've read some comments today which stated he doesn't deserve such an honor and he's just an average player. Again, people didn't pay attention to Todd Helton because he was on so many bad teams. But he was crucial for the Rockies to getting to the World Series. He was crucial for young players to go. Why do you think they brought him back specifically to work with the guy they think is the first baseman of the future? Why do you think they retired his number first? Remember, Todd Helton's front number was the first number retired. It was not Larry Walker. Larry Walker's number was not retired until later on. The first number retired by the Rockies was Todd Helton. That's significant too. Diving into my bad news. The one thing I think is a legit knock against Todd Helton, and that is the injuries are something to consider. Todd Helton did play a lot of banged up baseball. Todd Helton did not play full, complete seasons. Todd Helton, unfortunately, did miss significant time. Todd Helton, in his last 5 seasons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, in his last 5 seasons, only played over 150 games once. And then 3 out of those 5 seasons, he played 120. In 2012, he only played 69 games. He actually, in his from 2004 to 2013, basically his last All-Star season in 04, he only played 150 games 3 times, but was still there for extended. Still played over 100 games for a significant point. But there's a couple of points where injuries did get in the way. 2008 only plays in 83 games. 2012 only plays in 69 games. Only 118 games in 2010. I think this has an impact on some people more so than others because our mindsets of playing time and things, I think, have drastically changed. In other sports, nowadays, especially basketball, I've been watching more Nuggets than ever, honestly, this off season. And the rest days and the things of that with basketball, resting and missing time and is a much more accepted thing, which is fine. I don't know, man. It's a tough one. Of course, you want to see your favorite players play, but I'm just saying we're used to people missing time nowadays. To me, it's not surprising that someone can't make it 162 games. Baseball's a little different. You know, there's your off days and all that thing, but no one's going to be Cal Ripken again. There's no way. So when I kind of see that stuff, I do think that that argument holds water because you look at that and you say there's a lot of seasons where Todd Helton missed a lot of time, and that is true. I mean, again. If you're an everyday starter and you don't play, I'm gonna, 130 to 140 games a year, that's kind of a problem, right? Like, say Chris Bryant was healthy last year, none of the issues, but there was like scheduled rest and things like that. I don't think that we'd be upset if Chris Bryant didn't play 140 games. It's but at the same time, like, is it that big of a deal? Like, I don't know. It's such an interesting thing because yes, you want to see your players play, but in the grand scheme of things, and this new lens that we have on players missing time, is that going to impact Todd Helton as much? It is, because people are going to, it's the injuries, it's Coors Field. You have to pick at that stuff. Because Todd Helton's overall line, like on the other side, because there's no other argument against him. You have to knock him for being at Coors Field. You have to knock him for injuries, because what arguments are you going to have against the guy that had 369 home runs, batted 316, scored 1,400 times, drove in 1,406 ribby, stole 37 bases, had an career OBP of 414, a slugging of 539, an OPS of 953, an OPS plus of 133, a 4-time Silver Slugger, a 5-time All-Star, a 3-time Gold Glove, and a batting title winner, with a career Baseball Reference WAR of 61.8. Folks, elite. Todd Helton was elite. Doesn't matter about Coors Field. Doesn't matter about away splits. Doesn't matter about the back injuries, because he still put up that line. That is good. And he was almost a Padre, drafted by the Padres in the second round in 92. Thank God he went to college. And the Rockies got. Could you imagine Todd Helton, a Padre? Ugh! Ugh! Whoa. Ridiculous. What did he do in the postseason? Well, he didn't do much. That's one thing. Todd Helton struck out a lot in the postseason. Todd Helton didn't have a lot of experience in the postseason, but on the biggest stage and in the biggest moment, and when the Rockies offense couldn't get anything going in the World Series, Todd Helton batted .333 with an OBP of .412, a slugging percentage of .467, and an OPS of .878. With a couple of doubles, 5 hits, an RBI, and a couple of walks. No one took walks. No one hit doubles better than Todd Helton. Get a couple more comments here from the live chat and put a bow on it. Maybe see what the latest update is. I think, did the show just happen or did things just start? Let's see. When is the Hall of Fame? I feel it was like what is it, 6 o'clock tonight? I think. I don't know. 6 p.m. Yeah. So what do we got? About an hour before the show starts. Let's see where we're at. I'm going to go check Twitter. We'll check Twitter to see the latest on the Todd tracker and a lot more here. So lots more to come on the Locked On Rockies podcast. So don't you go anywhere. Lots more to come. Want to thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, why don't you go check out Locked On MLB Prospects, Lindsey Crosby, the man with the plan when it comes to MLB prospects. He has got takes on prospects from not just with the Rockies, but across the league and lots more. So be sure to go check out Locked On MLB Prospects for your second listen. You can also stay up to date with all things Colorado sports with the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, and Locked On Nuggets podcasts. My man, 13 a.m. here again. I don't know who's telling you these moving rumors, buddy, but you got to tell them that it ain't happening. It ain't happening. You don't need to worry about it. The Rockies ain't going anywhere soon. I've seen you comment a couple of times. You're worrying me about where you're hearing this stuff from. You know, what type of connections do you have that's got you so worried? What do you know that we don't? I would tell you to keep your fear that you are going to be A-okay. And let's dive back into the live chat here. Eric Harper says, any chance of doing a reaction live show tonight? I would love to, but I can't. But I might. I will do something quick. Pardon me real quick. Worked on a show I don't usually work on today. I'm filling in for someone, so I was a little more on air before this today. A little scratch in the throat, but we'll do something. If Todd gets in, there will be something. I will figure something out. There will definitely be something, and we will definitely talk about it tomorrow. As for a whole waiting and going through the show, probably not. But there will be at least an immediate reaction. If Todd Helton gets into the Hall of Fame, we will have an immediate reaction. I will give my immediate thoughts. in something probably short, sweet, and we'll dive into a bigger picture thing tomorrow. We'll be talking about this tomorrow as well. Also wanted to talk about one thing that we saw with Rockies, at least Rockies beat reporter, I think Patrick Saunders said this. I'll have to confirm, but was saying that someone spoke with Bill Schmidt. I'm pretty sure it was the Post and Patrick Saunders. Need to double check. Said that the team has basically made all of its moves. They're going with what they're going for. Lots of criticism I saw from some outlets and things like that. We'll talk about that as well. But wanted to take more comments here for our little Todd Helton talk, our little THT, as you call it. Joel DeGray says, no one will ever out Iron Man Cal Ripken. No one will ever swipe more bags than Ricky Henderson. There's some bars that aren't a good measuring point against others. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's everything is so different. I appreciate good classic sports debate and argument, but it's so exhausting to try to just negate the fact that athletes and the game and the rules and the structure and everything is the same as it was in the 90s. And I got a guide at the sandwich shop. He had the classic thing. If Jordan played in today's NBA, he'd had so many more points, he would have broken the scoring record. Can't ham check him out. It's like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. One thing I do know is baseball is one of those ones that's way different. Like, folks, you just got to admit it. Babe Ruth would get crushed. Babe Ruth couldn't hit nothing today. Same with a lot of your favorites, all the way up into the 70s. What they're doing in baseball is crazy. And for Todd Helton to ride a wave, 2 waves, Todd Helton went through 2 eras of baseball. He went through the steroid era, and he went through the beginning of the Moneyball and analytics era. And he was successful throughout all of it. And if the only things holding you back from voting for Todd Helton are the fact that he had a couple of banged up seasons and he played at Coors Field, then what truly is your line? I asked it in segment 1. What is the line? What does a Rockies player need to do to be great enough for the Hall of Fame for you? And on the flip, did you vote for Larry Walker? And if you did vote for Larry Walker and did not vote for Todd Helton, why? What is that reason? To me, at least when there are Rockies players that are going to face legit challenges and probably will miss out on the Hall of Fame due to good criticism. Troy Tulowitzki will not make the Hall of Fame. I think that is a safe bet to say. It's unfortunate. I don't want to say it. I love Tulo. Tulo is one of my favorite baseball players ever. But that's someone you can really sit there and say, hey, the injuries, that really got in the way. Did injuries really get in the way of Todd Helton's career overall? Yes. But at the same time, the level of production was insane. And the level of contribution for the Rockies team was consistent. And not only, and I really do think one thing that I think is something that should be considered is team loyalty. I don't think it's should be your biggest factor. I don't think it's, but if you're sitting there and saying, well, he stayed all 17 years in Colorado so he could use Coors Field as a crutch, why would you do that to yourself with some of these teams? Why would you do Todd and the Toddlers? Why would you do that? Why would you sign extensions and deals to keep yourself in a place that played a lot of bad baseball? Just so you can use the crutch to inflate your numbers to get into the Hall of Fame? That's really why you're doing it? No. I mean, it says something when a play and I think the Rockies do some, they've done a lot of recognition of Todd but I think the league should do a little bit of recognizing for players that do that. Again, no issue if a player plays his contract, hits free agency, wants to go somewhere else, do it. Yeah, boom. Absolutely. Absolutely. Go for it. No problem. Like, it's going to suck, but let's start acknowledging it now. Nolan Arenado's going to be remembered as a Cardinal. Not to us. I want to block the image out every time I see it, but that's how it's going to be. But that's not it really. I mean, in my opinion, that wasn't his decision, but partly his decision. I know I'm not that foolish. But that's what I mean. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of great Rockies players that have left the team. Todd Helton didn't. And we will see if Todd Helton is a Hall of Famer here in probably just an hour or so at this point. A couple of comments from the live chat, and then we're going to wind this thing down. Joel DeGray says, it'd be like saying Nolan shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because he isn't as good defensively as Brooks Robinson or something. I agree. Eric Harper says the Coors Crutch talk is insufferable. I would agree. Mateo says, unfortunately for such experts, only the team you play for counts. So if you play in Boston and LA and so on, you are a god. But if you spend your whole life in a small market, you're just average. Hello, Nikola Jokic. Is Arenado the most painful to see in another jersey for me? Yeah, easily. Will forever not be cool. I am trust me. I always bring it up because, hey, I'm a content guy, and Arenado and Rockies buzzwords, I will, disclaimer, but we talk significantly less. But for me as a fan and someone as a diehard, and again, someone who was excited and said, this is my guy and my next Todd Helton, and I can buy his jersey and feel confident in wearing it around and feeling really cool because it's a Nolan Arenado jersey and he's on the Rockies. Yeah, he's the worst. Now I wear my Nolan Arenado jersey because I'm like, it's my authentic jersey, and he still is one of my favorites. But yeah, that's a cool one. But anyway, folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you all so much for joining us today here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Alec Hart asks, it's at 4 Mountain. It is indeed at 4 Mountain, the Hall of Fame announcement tonight, Alec. I don't know if you're still watching, but it is indeed 4 o'clock Mountain time tonight that the Rockies will find out I should say Todd Helton will find out if he's in the Hall of Fame, and us Rockies fans will be able to celebrate alongside him. Hopefully Todd Helton's also wearing a SpongeBob shirt when he's inducted into the Hall of Fame, to keep the bit going. But folks, you can find us free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. You can also find us streaming on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the live chat, just like so many of you were today and all the time when we talk Rocks here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Go make Locked On MLB Prospects, or Locked On Broncos, or Locked On Nuggets, or Locked On Avalanche your second listen of the day. And until next time, folks, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.